Hey, I'm Brock.
I'm Tay.
And this
is Yuki. Hey, he came to show off for the camera.
He did. Hey, Bubs.
You want more? Yeah. He is a 3.5-month-old Pionus parrot. He is DNA sexed male. For those of you that don't know, most parrots you cannot tell if they're male or female by looking at them, so you have to DNA sex them. Pionus are one of them. He is a white-capped Pionus specifically. There are 4 common subspecies.
And they are white-capped, maxi, bronze-winged, and normal? What's the fourth one called? I don't know.
Blue-headed.
Oh, I was like, I knew it has blue in it, but okay.
Yeah.
Blue-headed? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So they're all a little bit different in size. The white-capped is the smallest of the Pionus, though, and he doesn't have it right now because babies have different colors than the adults. But once his adult colored feathers come in, he'll have a white spot on his head. And full grown, this is the size that he'll stay, but he doesn't have all the looks yet.
Speaking of that white cap, that's a big part of how we chose his name. So of course his name is Yuki, which is the Japanese word for snow. And we thought, you know, his little white cap that he's gonna get is gonna be kind of like some snow settled on top of his head. So that's where Yuki comes from. That's why he's Yuki.
So how do we take him outside? We take him outside in a backpack. We are working on harness training him. So they do make little harnesses for birds. The harness we have is an aviator harness. So we're working on training him to get comfortable with that. Parrots are very, very smart. They remember things. They aren't as forgiving as dogs. So you can't just throw it on him and let him get used to it because he might never forgive you. So you gotta be really patient with it. Our goal is to be able to get him in the harness comfortably and have him be happy with it on by next spring.
Of course, one of the most common questions is how does he get along with the pups? How do they get along with him? He does not care about them really since day one when we brought him home. He like kind of looked at them and was like, okay. And he doesn't really care about them. I think is kind of best case scenario for us. Shotzi doesn't really care about him. Maybe once a week, Shotzi will like go up and try to sniff him, but besides that, doesn't care. Mila is mostly obsessed with him. Like she'll just like stare at him or follow him around, or when he's on this table, like walking around, she'll follow him around on the edge.
If he's on us, she's following us. She really doesn't let him out of her sight.
Yeah. The first week he was here, it was like, should we be concerned like with how obsessed she is? Like, does she think that she's his mom or something? Now she's still obsessed. I would say a little bit less so. And I think even part of it is that like he's always dropping little like crumbs of whatever he's eating. So she's basically getting rewarded for staying near him. So I don't think that necessarily helps her obsession. Another good question is why that species? So why do we specifically get a white-capped Pionus compared to any of the millions of other different kinds of birds? She did a ton of research, like 2 months worth of obsessive YouTube video watching, Facebook group reading, forum discussions, research to figure out what would be the best bird for us. Because I had some birds growing up, she had some birds growing up, but we've never really had a bird, never together and not in a while.
Not in our adult life,
yeah.
Where it was truly our responsibility. So you had African Greys growing up. I had a macaw. At one point we had a cockatoo. I had some cockatiels and a parrotlet. So I grew up with a lot of different sizes. I haven't had great experiences with cockatoos. I think they require an insane amount of one-on-one time and undivided attention. And we might be able to offer that now, but it's just not something that we can commit to for 40 years straight.
In case you guys didn't know, birds live a long time. Like dogs might live like 12 to 15 years. Birds live like 30 or 40 years.
Pionus live 30 years. Some birds can live up to 80 years. Macaws were a bit too big for us. The African Greys were in consideration, but we narrowed it down to a bird that they like your time and attention, but they're also more than happy to just be in the same room with you and chill. They don't need to be constantly getting pet and be on you and they don't need you to play with them, things like that. So eventually we narrowed it down to Pionus or an eclectus. It's important because we work from home to have a parrot that is not constantly loud. So I know birds are loud. They're always going to be loud. It's less about their max decibel and more about them being constantly talking and loud. Pionus are really uncommon in the US, so we really did want to adopt. I scoured every rescue I could find in the entire US because they're so uncommon and because they are great companions. They're very, very rarely rehomed, so we couldn't find any that needed a home. The fate would have it, we were planning on, okay, sometime in the next year. And we called a local breeder from where we grew up. And they
like literally like 10 minutes from where we grew up. I don't know where you got your childhood birds, but it's where we got
it's where we got like all of our bird supplies and everything. So I just called them just to see. I think there's only 4 breeders in the whole US. They're like, oh, we actually do have one available. And they didn't know if he was male or female at the time, but I said, yep, perfect. And he was ready 3 weeks later. And I really wanted a boy. He was a boy. So I think it was just really meant to be. I scoured Facebook groups of Pionus owners, just watching videos and reading stories about them to really gauge their personalities and things like that.
If you watch like any YouTube video that's titled like the best birds for apartments, Pionus are always on that list. And one of the nicknames of Pionus is the perch potato. Perch potato. And we just thought it would be a good starter bird for us. And another story about how he was kind of like fate would have it that we got him is she flew home unexpectedly. Literally like the next day she went and saw him and they were like, well, he's actually ready to go home now. Like you can take him home tomorrow.
And so I canceled my flight home and rented a car and drove home with him.
By far, one of the most common questions, especially on Mila's page, is can he talk? Will he talk? Will he use the buttons? What can he say? Pionus aren't known for being great talkers. If anything, the males are a little bit more likely to talk than the females. If anything, it's gonna be more like a rough, raspy, low, quiet mumble of a word or two rather than like a full, sentence or anything like that, or being able to like answer you like some other birds can. But she has already purchased a course on how to teach your bird basically to use like the iPads to talk. And so that's the hope one day, just like with Mila and just like with Shotzi, if they take an interest in it, if he is wanting to use the iPad and wanting to learn to communicate in that way, we'll go down that route and we'll help him be able to communicate the best he can.
The reason that we're going the iPad route, which by the way, I found out about that through Parrot Kindergarten. She has a cockatoo, Ellie, who is just amazing to watch. The buttons are he weighs 195 grams. It's like less than half a pound.
It's like 0.48 of a pound.
So he couldn't press the buttons. He just doesn't weigh enough. He can't apply that force. And on top of that, the buttons are like half of the size of his body. So it's just too big for him. So the iPad is great because they can use their tongues to select what they want to select, which is really awesome. And we'll introduce that eventually. We're still trying to get to know him and, it's just very different. It'll be a learning process for us too, because it's a different way of teaching an animal to communicate.
So how many cages, what's his setup? What's his kind of living routine like? He has, first of all, a day cage, which is kind of a bigger cage that we'll put him in if we both need to like leave the house and leave him unattended, so he can be safe and secure in there, but still have some space to move around, eat, and play a little bit. He has a sleep cage, which is a much smaller cage, and it's not designed for him to spend very much time in, besides when he's sleeping. He goes in that every night. It's very important. We've learned that birds get a lot of sleep. In fact, he gets 12 hours of sleep a night. So every night at 7 o'clock, we put him in there. It's totally blackout in the room, super dark. And he doesn't wake up until 7 a.m. the next morning. So that's his sleep cage. And then he has this play stand right here, which is where he hangs out most of the day. Most of the day, he kind of hangs out in this area. He's got his play stand. We kind of change up how his toys are configured, and we build different bridges to connect the play stand to this table. This is technically his scale perch. It's like so that we can weigh him every day. But we also use that so that he can kind of climb onto it and come hang out with us during the day. And then he has an outside cage, which is also kind of like his travel cage. And am I missing anything? Oh, he has a shower perch.
His backpack.
He has a backpack, so he's a shower perch so that he can take showers with us. Because again, it's a good thing for them to take showers often. And then he has a backpack so that when we go on like walks and hikes and like go to the grocery store, he can go in the backpack and hang out with us as well.
The reason we have the scale is that because parrots are a prey species, they don't show when they're sick in the way that dogs do. Birds will not show it until they're on the bottom of their cage and gonna die like that day. So the ways that you can tell, one of them is weighing them every day to monitor their weight.
What toys does he like? We call him Yuki the Destroyer because he loves destroying things, which a lot of birds do. But his favorite toys are, let's see, he loves these pencils, which are like little toy wooden pencils. He loves destroying these like little shoes that you just got him.
Birds forage in the wild, so it's kind of to stimulate that. He can kind of go through and pick out what he wants. But these are some of his favorite toys. These little like Converse looking shoes.
Loves just straight up popsicle sticks. One of his all-time favorites. Like he'll just chomp on this or on these pencils for like hours at a time.
Random pieces of paper, old mail.
The stickers on our laptops.
The stickers on our laptops, these popsicle sticks, a shoelace that I gave him.
Also, in terms of the food that he likes, he's currently on a mix of chop, which is like chopped up veggies and fruits. And we've learned he likes the biggest pieces possible. Like if you chop up little cubes and big like sticks of bell pepper like this, he always goes for the biggest things first, and he holds them in his hand and he bites them, which is really, really cute. And then he also eats pellets. Which pellets are, you told us the other,
they're like a mix of alfalfa and just like a bunch of healthy stuff.
And after he eats, the poop is something that we'd love to eventually potty train him so that he can learn, birds can be potty trained, that they go back to like their play stand or even their cage to go potty. He's obviously, we've had him for like 2 weeks. He's 3 months old. He's not potty trained yet. But we have noticed he doesn't like to poop on us, which is kind of cool. Like if he's like on our shoulder, on our hand, he'll make an effort to like get away from us or tell us that like, you know, something's wrong if he's got to poop.
Yeah,
which is cool.
we're learning his signs. So once we learn the signs, then we can potty train him. And the reason we are potty training him is because we plan to have him fully flighted. So that means he has all of his flight feathers and he can fly wherever he wants. And then if he has to go potty, he can just fly back to his perch or his cage or whatever and go potty.
We'll definitely be traveling with him. Of course, there are some trips that like it'll be impossible. Like if we go to Europe, you know, for a week, he can't come to Europe. But we are going to plan on bringing him in the Airstream. We are going to plan on bringing him, you know, when we go home for Thanksgiving and things like that. I say home, I mean Southern California. Obviously,
it's always home.
But like home to visit our families. So we're going to plan on traveling with him just like we travel with the dogs. It's possible. People do it. That's why we got the backpack. That's why we have a travel cage. And that's why we've also already done a great job of trying to socialize him. If you want to tell him a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so you know, with dogs, and you take them out when they're a puppy, right? You take them everywhere and everyone meets them and they go on walks and everything. But with birds, it's a lot harder to take them out and about. So then they really only get used to the people in the house. And then if someone comes over, you have someone pet sitting them, they're a lot more emotional because they're so highly intelligent. And they can get depressed, they can get really upset, they'll bite people because they're like, I don't know you, I don't like you. And so it was important for us that we really make an even stronger effort to socialize him. So we take him in the car, we take him in the backpack on walks so that he's not scared of things outside the house. Even just seeing people in passing will help. And I think that'll make it a lot easier to have him for the next 30 years.
He's just been the best boy. Like he's got such a great personality. He's young, his personality will change, but like he's not very scared of anything. He's so good with the dogs. He steps up for both of us. He's super chill and like exploratory and walking around the house and wanting to like check things out.
So curious. He'll hit maturity around 2 or 3 years old, and that's when he's fully sexually mature and their personalities will change a little bit. I'm curious to see how much it will change. He'll probably get a little bit louder as he gets more comfortable in this house. Probably get a little bit more curious.
It's also cute though. He does already kind of like express interest in us. Or for example, last week she was camping with her mom, so it was just me and him here. And there were times like this where he'd be sitting on his play stand, playing by himself, eating, whatever. And I would like leave the room to go to the bathroom real quick. And I'd come back and he had gotten off his play stand and walked to the opposite edge of the table and was like looking for me and waiting for me to come back.
He cares about us a little bit.
So we'll continue to document our life with him. Obviously, as you said, he is going to live a long life. So we're going to document as much of it as we can and share any helpful resources that we pick up along the way. And stay tuned for next week's video where we might be doing a house tour.
I will say we're starting some renovation projects. I'm curious, do you guys want me to like share that process of like how I mock things up, the materials I'm using, how I'm finding things and stuff like that? Because it's a learning process, but I feel like it could help people.
Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like this video. Thanks so much for watching. Also, by the way, if you're watching this because you follow us on Instagram, make sure to double check that you're subscribed to us on YouTube, because a lot of people only rely on us posting on Instagram that we posted a new YouTube video, which means you're probably going to miss a lot of YouTube videos. Also, we just don't always post when we share a new YouTube video. So make sure you press subscribe so you can watch all of our future videos.
Yeah, and if there's any video requests you have, let us know. Yuki, Tuki, Tukadi, do you want to try a black